Hello, what's going on guys, Ronaldo here and welcome back to this another episode of video. But first of all, I would like to apologize for not uploading a video for almost a month now, since I just noticed that most of my video has a noise background in it, and it seems like it does not sounds very good. So I just decided to rest for a while and wait for the time until I will purchase a good mic for recording. So in the last upload of my video, we learned how to render a bitmap font in our game screen. But in today's video, we will move to our next topic, and that is how to implement a camera movement. Again, this is not the advanced technique or approach in Libgdx Game programming, but this is good to start if you are a beginner, and I hope this one is will help you as you begin learning in Libgdx programming. So without talking too much, let us now implement all the classes that we need for this activity. So to implement a camera movement, we need a certain class to accomplish this task. So first we need orthographic camera. We always need an orthographic camera whenever we want to render or to project something in our screen. So we just declare a camera. We also need sprite buds in which our object will be drawn. So we will name it buds. And for our textures, because we will use this texture, so we will declare a texture region in which we can specify the region or the region of our object. So a region is a particular or a certain part of the object, for example a sprite. So a texture region is a part of a sprite sheet, for example a single frame, so for a particular frame. So in this example we will just use it for our flare texture. We also need another texture region for our background image. Okay, after that we will initialize our camera, orthographic camera, without having a parameter. Then we also initialize our batch to new sprite batch and flare texture plus new texture region. But first we need to create temporary textures in which it will hold our image, or that will allow us to hold our image. So we can declare a texture, select texture plus new texture that file. Again, there is a good way in which you can access a file without doing gdx.files internal, but since we are just started or a beginner in this programming language, then we will just use this and this GDX file internal, but in the future video there is a nice approach or another way which is better than this implementation. So it's internal. Maybe in the future video I'll make a tutorial by separating or by just using asset managers. Or I know some of you already watched a video about asset manager, but again, like I said, the quality of the audio is not good, and it has a noise background in it. So okay, so Access file internal, then inside of the open and close parenthesis, you can just locate where the asset for our of our project. So for example, mine is in the sprites folder. So for example, this is the character that we want to use for this tutorial. So for example, we will use this as our character. So we can just type sprites, then the name of our file, png, and we can now pass the texture, which is the name of our texture class, and then the second parameter will be the width and height. And since we didn't declare a constant for the width and height, you can just define it manually. So for example, I mean for the x and y coordinate, not width and height. For the x and y, we can just define manually. For example, we want our character to position in the x-axis by 50, so we can just put 50 and just a temporary position. Then in the y-axis, we can just put again 50 for example, and then 250 by the width and height. And then we will just import all of the classes that we use. So we will import sprite paths, texture region, and texture. Okay, so we are done loading the flare, but we need also to load our background image. So we need again to create another texture class. So new texture, and same as the other one below, you can just use the GDX.file internal to locate our sprites or image that we will be using for this tutorial. So in this activity, our image was located in sprites folder, so we will just write sprites, then the background that we will be using, maybe this one. So let us try to use a background. Okay, for example, okay, for example, we will use this background. So background.png, this background.png. Then we need to initialize our background texture, background image, plus new texture region, and we will pass our texture 1 as first parameter. Then for the position will be 0 in x and y coordinate. Width and height, let us try to put it to 0 for it. So this is just for a demonstration purposes. It is not intended if you are the advanced use programmer of Libgdx Game. This video is not intended for you. This is only for the absolutely beginners. So texture 1, and after that we will now create a camera, configuration camera, a method called camera, and we will create this method. Okay, we will just create this method, and in this block we will write if statement that will tell if graphics that with height is less than graphics that with width. Then we want to set our camera to false, first parameter false, because if we write true, our image will start appearing in this top left corner, or start to be drawn in the top left corner, which is not pretty much okay in our site. So that is why we invert the value. So false in the first parameter. The second will be the width of our camera and the height of our camera multiplied by graphics dot get height divided by graphics dot get width, and then we end up with semicolon. Else we also want to set our camera to false first parameter 800 times graphics dot get width graphics dot get width divided by graphics dot get height. We pass the height of our camera 800, and we end up with semicolon. Okay, so now we already create a method called private void configure camera, and this is the configuration of our camera, or the settings for our camera. Okay, so in the render method we will just call the camera update to update our camera state. So camera update, and we need to call batch begin method batch.end. Okay, so as usual we need to call batch begin and end so we can start drawing or rendering image in our game screen by drawing it in the batch. Okay, so batch begin that in But first we also need to set our bats to set projection matrix. Projection bats that set projection. Okay, bats that set projection matrix camera that combine, and inside of the bats begin and end block, here we will draw our texture. Okay, that's the draw texture, and first we need to draw our background texture image with a position of 0 in the X, and Y will be 0 also, and for the width and height we will just say to 900, and the height will be 568 pixel. So first we draw our background image, and second we will draw our flare. That's the draw flare flare texture. Okay, flare texture starting in the position in 50 in the X coordinate, also 50 in the Y. This is just for example, and to 50 for the width and height. And now we will now update our, we will now pass our configure camera method in the resize method. Your camera, okay, to apply the settings of our configuration method. Then we will just dispose our bats, dispose our bats, but before since we want to apply a camera movement, we need to declare a for loop statement before we will draw our flare textures and our background textures. So right here we will declare a for loop statement before we will draw our background image. So for n I equals 0, I is this done for how many times? 30. Then I plus plus. Then we will now draw our batch in the I multiplied by the width of our image, 0 in the Y, and then we will change it, we will leave it past 500 right now. We also need to declare another for loop statement for our we also need to declare a for loop statement before we will draw our flare texture. So we just declare I equals 0, I is less than 100 times, I plus plus. Then we will draw our flare texture. we will use the I that we declare in the for loop statement, and we will multiply by the size of our camera. So we draw our prior textures in respect to the I that is in the for loop, and we multiply it to the size of our camera. We can also change it to the size of our camera, and then we will now use the camera that translate method. Translate by the first parameter will be 500. We can just pass a value 500, and we will multiply it to the gdx.graphics that get delta time. Okay. The delta time is a float data type. It is a time since the last frame was rendered. So okay, so I think we are done. Okay, let us try if there are no errors, and it will work fine. But if there are errors, let's try to run. Okay, so as you can see, our frame was moving, but the texture was very disgusted. So it is very disgusting. It is not what we expected, so we'll fix it in the next tutorial. So thanks for watching this video. See you in my next video tutorial. So bye for now, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.